Dank times, Danker thoughts, sweet vibes and taking it sleazy. The dankness is taking over, nonsense is dancing through his mind. Oh, the dankness is taking over. Dank times, Danker thoughts with Angelo.
All right. Welcome to another Dank Times, Danker Thoughts podcast with me, Angelo Grosso. This is episode 58. And I know most of my listeners, all 10 of you, are thinking to yourself right now, well, Angelo, aren't you supposed to be on 4th of July vacation? Didn't you tell us all about it on the last podcast? Hey, that's a very good memory y'all have. Yes, I did take time off. Yes, it was vacation. Yes, it was for the 4th of July. And yes, I was pretty pumped for that. However, life decided to kick me in the balls a few times and throw me a lot of family issues, health issues. And I'm not complaining about things. I'm just questioning fate's timeline on this. So what happened was my father called me Monday evening. He was feeling okay. Now, a little backstory here. My father is the most stubborn, narcissistic, selfish, but giving, and when he wants to be, empathetic boomer you'll have ever met. Now, he has a checkered health past. Now, some of the health issues he has, just dumb luck. Nothing he could do about it. Or it's genetic, such as the diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, you name it. It's the Italian curse to have skinny legs, skinny arms, and a gigantic stomach looking like you're carrying a set of triplets. And it got my dad. But that's not the health issues. He's always had a proclivity for kidney stones. I have my own thinking why he gets kidney stones, and that is he doesn't drink enough water. When he does drink water, it's usually in coffee, fruit juice, lemonade, things like that. I have never seen him in my 34 years of life drinking more than a glass of pure water a day. And he loves to throw salt on his food. He loves his carbs. He loves his late night snacks. He eats fruit all throughout the day. Never mind that it's got fructose and sugar in it. That doesn't help his diabetes. But when you bring up these issues to him, he dismisses it or insults you or just ignores you outright. And it's like you're talking to a brick wall. And I've grown up with this mindset of his ideology, if you will. And so we just kind of have to roll with the punches, so to speak. And I should also mention, he also likes to self-medicate. He has a cornucopia of expired medications in one of his medicine cabinets in the bathroom. Some of that Vicodin has been expired for over a decade, but he still pops it if he feels the need to. Which is interesting, because my father's not a drinker. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't like marijuana. What he likes are downers. What he likes are the Vicodins, the Valiums, the, what's the one that starts with the B? It doesn't matter. That's what he likes. And he tends to take the medication in the evening when he can't sleep, because he also has sleep apnea. And instead of maybe making some changes in his evening lifestyle, which there's a laundry list of things that I've tried to help him with, but you have to want to change. And so he wakes up at 2 a.m, takes a couple Valium, then he sleeps until 9, and then he's shocked to wake up all tired and he's not lucid, and it takes him a couple hours to get going. So that's kind of a summarization of my father's mental and health routine, if you will. So for the last 2 years, he has called 911, I believe, 3 or 4 times, which is 3 or 4 times more than he's ever called them in the past. And it's always dealing with the same thing, either his bladder or prostate. And what happens is, because he gets so many kidney stones, that's what he assumes all of his issues are when he gets these kind of ailments. He can't urinate, he feels intense bloatiness and pressure, he gets pain when he's peeing, he pees blood, and I won't go into the gory details of what else he pees out. So, a couple of years ago, he was having a very bad reaction to what he just assumed was kidney stones, but me and his girlfriend of 20-odd long-suffering years have tried to tell him this is not a normal kidney stone. Unfortunately, you are a pro at passing kidney stones at this point, and that is not what's happening now. So please go see the doctor. He didn't want to. He put it off. Then he started to self-medicate, and then he got the flu, which later turned out to be pneumonia. And this is on top of about 7 years ago, he had a heart issue. So now he has what is that heart issue called, where it just beats a little slower and you kind of get run down and lethargic easier. I'm drawing a blank. It's very common with older men. Congenitive heart something. Anyway, he's got it. One of my best friends' dads has it. He's about the same age. Anyway, so 2 years ago, when he woke up one morning and he peed the bed, blood was in the pee, and he could not go to the bathroom. And so instead of calling the hospital or calling 911 or just getting in the car and driving to the nearest doctor or multi-care clinic, he called me on a Thursday evening. I remember vividly. And this was going on for about 2 weeks of that time, and I was at my wit's end because he just would not listen to logic. It's not just myself that was telling him that, but his girlfriend. He had a brother, my uncle at the time, who was alive at the time, was telling him to do things. But, my father knows best, goes with his fat gut reaction. And he called me that Thursday saying, I'm going to have to go to the hospital tomorrow morning because I haven't slept in a couple days, or really slept in a couple days. I haven't peed in a couple hours. I'm bleeding, and all these things. And of course, I told him, well, why are you waiting until tomorrow morning? Let's just go right now. And he completely dismissed it and talked to me like I was a fucking idiot for bringing that up. And I was telling him, you have a better chance of getting to the ER in a timely manner and getting seen a doctor in a quickly manner if we go right now. Because if you wait until Friday at rush hour, by the way, he lives in Skyway and he refuses to go anywhere but the best. And to him, the best is Swedish in Seattle. So he wanted me to pick him up as early as I could Friday morning and drive like hell to Swedish in Seattle. And I told him it's going to take about an hour. It's Friday rush hour traffic. He did not believe me. He was very mean and crass to me. He insulted me, and then he hung up on me. So I said, if he dies, he dies, because I was upset. Hung up the phone, and lo and behold, when I got there Friday morning, it was such a shit show, and he was already agitated. And he said, I haven't been able to sleep at all because every 20 minutes I have this intense pressure in my bladder, and I have to go pee, and nothing's coming out. He was freaking out, and I wanted to say, but I fought the urge to tell him, I fucking told you so. So he went in my car, just like I told him. There was intense rush hour traffic. So bad, in fact, he pissed in my car twice. And then we finally got to the ER. They, of course, which made me feel good, they told him off, basically, for waiting so long. And he spent about a week and a half there, cleaning out his prostate, cleaning out the bladder, and he had double pneumonia, they said, on top of kidney stones, on top of his congenitive heart issue. It just kind of made a cocktail of fucking awfulness. However, he did not change his ways in terms of his hydration, his nutrition, his physical exercise, his sleeping habits, his self-medication issues. He changed none of that. And so, 2 years later, here we are. So, I didn't talk about this on the podcast when it happened because I just didn't. I didn't feel like it would be worth talking about. I try to be uplifting or somewhat entertaining on these podcasts. And fair warning, this podcast probably is going to be not so much that. He called me, left me a message while I was in the weed store, which is happily or luckily only about 5 minutes from his house. So he called me, missed me. I bought the weed, saw that he called. I did not listen to the voicemail because I was already in the area, and I said to myself, I'll just go visit him. Drove down to his house, was greeted at his house with a fire truck and a ambulance. So I, of course, start freaking out, thinking, he's dead or he's injured or something awful has happened. And I get in there, and long story short, same thing happened 2 years ago that's happening now. He hadn't urinated in about 16 hours. He shit himself. He's peeing blood whenever stuff does come out. He's lethargic. He's dizzy. He was just out of it. And luckily I stopped by because he was having a hard time answering the questions from the medics. And when he did, he was kind of lying. So I was there to clarify some of the lies, such as his medication, how much he takes, and, oh, by the way, look at this treasure trove of expired meds. The poor fuck medic who went back in the bathroom with me to jot down all the medication, he was said, oh my God, this is like a pharmacy. I said, I know. Welcome to America, bitch. And so he spent only about a day or two in the hospital, and he set a appointment with the best urologist in the West Coast, supposedly. But the problem was, because he is the best, there was a long waiting period of about 2 weeks. So they told my father, hang tight. They gave him a catheter to wear until the appointment, told him how to use it, how to clean it, blah, 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 blah. He, of course, thought, oh, this is so stupid. I'm not like everybody else. I should get special treatment. It's that boomer mentality a lot of them have. That boomer mentality of individualism is dooming us all. It didn't just doom their generation and Gen X. It's dooming us and the Zoomers that are coming up. But that's a whole other issue. So for about 2 weeks, he had the catheter in. And, I checked in on him more than usual. And for the most part, he was doing okay. I did start to tell a difference in his attitude, and not for the better. He started to become an old man. My father has always been an old soul, so to speak, but now he looks, and unfortunately, he started to smell like an old person. I'm sure those of you that have had elderly grandparents during their last legs of life, you visit them in a assisted living or a nursing home or a hospital, and you kind of have that scent of like rust and blood and cleaning solutions, iodine, those kind of smells. And I started to smell that in my father's house. I chalked it up to the disgusting catheter that he was wearing, and I had to question my father's mental state a few times because he still wasn't drinking water. He would tell me, the more water I drink, the more I have to pee, which means the more I have to clean out the catheter. And I told him that's not a bad thing, because sometimes when I looked at the catheter bag, it looked like it was nothing but blood. And I told him, Dad, that's not what it should look like. It should be a little yellow, a little dark, sure, but it shouldn't be the color of death and decay. Come on. But again, it's like talking to a brick wall. Well, this week, his long-awaited urologist appointment was on Tuesday. And so I called him on Monday to see how he was doing and if he was getting ready for the appointment. And he seemed lucid. He seemed to be okay. This was about 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. Chit-chatted a little bit. I told him I would check in with him tomorrow, and if he needed anything, I was there. Okay? Excuse me. Well, a few short hours later, unbeknownst to me, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock, literally a few hours after we talked, he called 911 again for the same reasons. He could not pee. He felt intense pressure. Even with the catheter, nothing was happening. It was just a shit show, okay? So I woke up that Tuesday morning, excited for him to finally go see this long-awaited urologist and hopefully find some answers as to what the fuck is going on. They don't even know if it's his prostate or his bladder or if it's cancer or if it's just kidney stones. What? We don't know anything. Well, he called 911 and was back at Swedish. He went to Valley Medical first, but they had such a shit show going on. They told him he had to wait 12 hours, and of course he was in agony. and he wanted special treatment, which I can understand, but tried telling him that. So he then took a cab from Valley Medical to Swedish, and he was there for 3 days. And he just was released home today, which means I had to cancel my vacation with my friends because I had to go to his house, clean up some messes that happened, take care of his cat, handle his mail. He's very active on eBay selling baseball cards. I just had to maintain him. Plus, I had to be on call in case something awful happened. And not once did I think, oh, this is really stupid. I have to suffer because my father's suffering. I didn't feel those feelings until later on. It's just my life. It's what I've had to do for the last, I would say, 15 years or so. I am an only child, and so I have to maintain these relationships with my mother and father, which I love to do. I love my parents. They're probably more of my best friends than parents, and that's good and bad. I have tried to push back on the friendship and tried to bring in the parenting a little bit more from them, and they've resisted. They don't have friends. They don't have loved ones outside of me, except my father's, like I said, long-suffering girlfriend of 20-odd years. So I had to nix all of my time off plans. I had to cancel with my friends, which sucked. I was so looking forward to this trip, guys. You have no idea. Just for my own mental stability, I wanted to do this. So, instead, I'm home. I kept my days off because I went to my father's today. I'll be going back tomorrow. I'm hoping I can get Saturday to myself, and then I'll go back Sunday until I go see my friends in Issaquah for the 4th of July, because I told my father, which again, I don't blame him for not really giving a fuck what's happening with me. He never once asked, why am I not on vacation? He knew what I was doing. He knew what I had planned. He knew how much it meant to me. Never brought it up. Just started bossing me around, which, again, I can understand where he's coming from. He is in agony. He is old, and for the lack of a better word, he is dying. So I saw him today, and I told him the last day he was in the hospital before he was discharged, I told him, please, for the love of God, keep the discharge paperwork because I want to read it. Oh, there's nothing in there of importance. I don't care. I want to read it. I want to look at the medication they're putting you on. I just want to look at the notes. I want to see if there's a game plan, something. Because another problem with my father is that he kind of turns off when people are telling him things he does not want to hear. Or he takes in what they're saying and twists it or manipulates it so that he can better understand it and live with it. So if the doctor tells him something he does not want to hear, he will then change it in his mind and then verbally tell his girlfriend and myself what he took from the doctor, but says it like it's gospel, like this came from the voice of the doctor himself. And I have been very cautious about this because I know my father likes to take things out and leave things in. It's almost like it when you look at an old government document that's been released to the public and you can see it's redacted or there's black lines through certain sentences. That's how my dad regurgitates information that's important. So I knew that was going to happen, and since I was not there at the hospital when he got discharged, and neither was his girlfriend, I begged him to keep the paperwork. I went there today to check in on him. He threw the motherfucker away. He shredded it, so there was no proof of it. And I erupted at him. And I know he looked like he aged about 10 years in that hospital. But at that time, I did not give a fuck. It's incredibly selfish and narcissistic for you to ask so much from your family, your only family, and your only loved one, and you don't do what they ask you to do, and you expect to be treated like a dying king. So it was a balancing act between anger and resentment and empathy and compassion, much like our relationship always is. So this is an ongoing process. He now has his urologist appointment 2 weeks from today, so he has to wait another 2 weeks. This time he does not have a catheter because he was able to urinate at the hospital multiple times without it. But one day out of the hospital, he started to complain a little bit about pressure and about blockage, but it's starting to go away from the meds. So hopefully the meds help. But it's this is a larger issue in my life, and I don't think it's selfish to kind of go, woe is me, when I have been surrounded by boomers' lack of health coming back to bite the younger generations. As much as I love my father and mother, which I do, they are very unhealthy, very depressed, very selfish, and it's all about them. Now, they go about it in different ways, but the fact remains the same. It's them, 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 them. My mother has her own mental and health issues that are a constant point of conversation. Let me put it this way. Whenever I talk on the phone with them for more than 2 minutes, inevitably it goes to, let me tell Angelo in detail what is hurting, where it hurts, and why I think it hurts, and let me try to blame something or somebody for the reason that it hurts. And that can go on for a couple minutes to an hour. Usually I put the phone down, place them on mute, and go play a video game or something. But the fact remains, a big part of my life is basically being a caregiver to my old parents. They are both in their 70s, very unhealthy, very overweight. One's got arthritis, one's got diabetes. They both have high cholesterol, high blood pressure. They both now have walking problems. They both have dizzy spells. My mother has it worse than my father. My mom has just fallen in stores randomly. She's never hurt herself, but she just gets vertigo and falls. And you can imagine how embarrassed she is. And of course, I've talked about this before, but my sister fucking died when she was 40 years old because of lack of care for her physical, mental, and emotional well-being. She just fucking gave up on life at a very young age. And to this day, I still am very angry and resentful of a lot of things my sister put us through because of those selfish reasons. However, I still love her. I still miss her every day. And I would give almost anything to have her back. However, it's not like we didn't try with her, but she had the uncanny ability, the superpower, if you will, to cry on command. And whenever I would say, hey, Erica, I love you, but you've put on 40 pounds this month, the house is starting to smell, you seem to be not showering or have no hygiene, and you're starting to become a hoarder. I didn't say that verbatim, but those are just topics I brought up to her, and I would say it in a very nice, polite way. She would turn on the waterworks, make me feel awful for bringing it up, and then we had to play damage control, and the next thing you know, I'm apologizing as she shoves more fucking fried food in her fucking gullet. And the reason she died is that something so minor, she tripped and broke some bones in her foot, but because she was so big, she was wheelchair bound at 40. She had to go to physical rehab with a bunch of old people. She was by far the youngest person there, and she could barely move. She could barely get out of bed. And she died because of all those things. And left me holding the bag, so to speak, because if she was still around, I don't know how much help she would be to our older family members. I really don't. And I'm just telling you guys what's going on with my father and a little bit with my mother. But just in the past 3 months, I have lost a cousin to surprise cancer. I'm not close with my family, really. My cousin that died, I had only met him maybe a handful of times in my life. He is 15 years older than me. He has a wife and 2 or 3 children. I don't have a lot in common with him. He lives in Oregon. I live here. But still, he was a beautiful man, beautiful family, and he fought cancer valiantly for a few years, and then he just died. I had another uncle, very fat and obese. That seems to be the MO in this country, but especially in both sides of my family. He got COVID on top of other things, and he's barely left the hospital in over a year because of multiple complications. I have another aunt who has had so many ailments, whether it be her knees, her back, her dizzy spells of her own, falling, digestive issues. I mean, there's this, my one aunt, God bless her. She's a beautiful person, but she is nutter than a honey butter candy bar. She's nuts. And she married someone who's even nuttier than her. My uncle, who I looked up to so much as a child, has now turned into one of the worst human beings that it is around my life. And I used to really respect him. And so did a lot of people. And he just turned into a ghost of who he once was. And he will do almost anything to get out of having to deal with his wife dying. Now, my aunt and uncle, who I'm speaking of, are in their late 60s, so they're not spring chickens themselves. And because no one is helping them out, because they have cut off ties with a lot of family, specifically my uncle is horrified to talk about personal matters. He still works. They have tried to let him retire multiple times. I can't really tell you what he does because he works with the federal government. Let's just say he has working relationships with the CIA. I shit you not, so he can't tell us anything. But I won't go into detail what's going on with them, but it's just shameful and horrific what he's doing. And it's putting everything on my mother because she is the only family that lives out there and that they're somewhat on friendly terms. And the way that the insurance is fucking her over. Don't get me started on insurance companies, because when my sister died, I forget the name of the insurance company. The insurance refused to pay for accidental death. My sister died accidentally. The doctor said that, the rehabilitation center said that, and the medics that tried to rejuvenate her from her death told everybody that as well. The family knew that, the doctors, the medics, everybody knew she died on accident. It was not suicide. It was not anything like that. There was no fishy business. However, she paid into this accidental death insurance for over a decade. So it had about $10,000 that was due to the beneficiary, which was me, and that money was going to be used to help out my mother, who has never had any luck with finances, mostly her fault, but still, and was going to go towards paying back some other family members who had to fork up money to help pay for things for my sister. Now, I personally was given quite a large sum of money being her beneficiary, which got me to pay off some things so that I could start my own life at the ripe age of 28. But this one accidental death insurance plan was refused. They said, basically, she was too fat and too obese for her death not to be considered an accident. So they basically said it was her decision to get that fat. She would not have died if she wasn't that fat. So because she's fat, we can't pay. And so, in summary, because I don't want to keep talking about this because I will rage quit this podcast, I wrote them back multiple times. I went through every channel. I came so close to taking them to court, but it would not be worth it. Even if I won, after paying for everything, the $10,000 would be whittled down to about $3,000, which was still better than fucking nothing, but at that time, I was the only person holding strong. My mother was a wreck, my father was a wreck, my sister's father was a wreck. I was the only one that was really holding up everything from falling and collapsing. And I had to throw in the towel after a month of fighting these cocksuckers. And I told them, it's interesting to me, you would take obese people's money and never question that. You would never question their mental or health status from taking their fucking money. You never had them do a health or wellness check saying, hey, in order to get this accidental death insurance, you can't be obese. So we need proof that you're not obese or else we have to kick you out of the plan. And you never did that, did you, you fucking cunts? No, you took a fat person's money for a decade and then you refused to pay it because she was fat. And they gave me, oh, we understand. I wanted nothing more than to pull a Oklahoma City bombing in their fucking headquarters. I still have the novel-sized paperwork they sent me in the mail to go over everything so that I can understand why they're rejecting the claim. The fucking audacity of those evil cunts. I will never forgive the insurance companies. Ever, ever, ever. And if you ever defend the insurance companies when, I don't know, a topic of healthcare for all in this country comes up, I hope you get asshole cancer of the worst fucking kind. I hope you feel comfortable at the time thinking, well, I have insurance. Surely this painful asshole cancer won't kill me and it won't get canceled by my insurance company. And you call your insurance company and they cancel the claim. They reject it.
for some bogus reason. Oh, our records show you got asshole cancer while on vacation. We don't cover asshole cancers outside the home or workplace, so you're on your own. Fuck you if you defend insurance companies at all. And now the way that my aunt's insurance company is just shitting on her. Her whole life has meant nothing. My aunt was a goddamn nurse for decades. Decades! A nurse! And this is how she gets treated in her waning years. Fucking scum of the earth. I don't give a fuck how patriotic you are. You have to look at the American healthcare system, and if you don't see a burning house of cards, then you're fucking blind. You're fucking blind. So, my point being, in all of this ranting, is if you have parents, for the love of God, cherish them as long as you can, but also don't be afraid to get in their face a little bit and say, hey, you're a fat fuck, and I love you. You need to start living better, because ultimately in a few years, I'm going to be taking care of you. Especially, you should have the conversation if you're an only child. And if you have siblings, you better fucking sit your siblings down and talk to them about the realities of what it's going to be like to be a caregiver to your parents or your aunts and uncles or anybody in the family. In this fucking country, we don't give a fuck about the elderly. Honestly, we don't. I could count the people I know that have their elderly family living with them on one hand. I don't want to live with my father or mother. I certainly don't want to. Do I have room? Yes. Would I do it? Yes. Do I want to? Fuck no. Fuck no. But I will do it if that needs to be done. But look in this country. Look how many fat boomers are barely holding on. Barely holding on. Whether it be financially, mentally, emotionally, it does not matter. Yes, they have their faith. But I'd love for them to pay their mortgage and insurance and healthcare costs with religion and faith. God doesn't sign checks over, you dumb fucks. The only thing that could do that is if we get a completely new outlook in this country of what it means to take care of people in their latter years of their life. We throw them in homes, we throw them in assisted living, we throw them in God knows what, and it's so expensive and they don't get shit. My mother lives in a HUD living situation, which means it's government assisted. My mother has fuck all for money, even though she's worked every day in her life since she was, I think, in her early 20s. Never really traveled, never really had any hobbies. She raised 2 kids and worked every day in her life for the most part. But because she had some issues of her own, financial issues, she had fuck all when she retired. Fucking nothing. Okay? So she can't afford to live anywhere outside of rent-controlled housing, HUD. She tried living in the shag type units, but couldn't afford them. Plus, she said they were very shitty for what you were paying. She found a nice place in Bremerton, but they raised her rent so much that she couldn't pay. Everyone that lived there was on rent-controlled, and every year they would raise the rent because they have a waiting period of people who want to get in there. So they say, well, they'll pay, and they just kick out the people that can barely hold on, and then she had to go to someplace else, which is not as good as where she left. Now, let me put it this way. I don't know, I can't repeat enough that where she is living, it is a government subsidized, controlled living situation. She basically lives in an apartment. No washer and dryer, no air conditioning. Now, this is where seniors are living. When I visit her, I don't see anybody who looks like they're in decent shape. Not one. Not one. Everyone's fat. Everyone's hunched. Everyone's angry, sweaty, stinky, clammy. These people are barely holding on as is. This place where they live, I'm not going to name names because I don't want there to be a bombing. They charge residents to do laundry. They have a laundromat inside the building that is not free. These people are barely scraping by. My mother calls me daily bitching about, oh, I feel like I can't buy food this week. My mother's a bit dramatic, but a lot of the time she's correct. Then she has to go pay to do her laundry. Well, then you think, well, surely in this last heat wave that broke all records, that really should awaken everybody to climate change, if you don't believe in it already, you fucking mook. Over 100-degree weather, none of the units had air conditioning. These are old people, not healthy, not in shape, depressed, angry people. No one had air conditioning. The only air conditioning in that building is in the offices where the employees work, and they were closed. So, again, if you think that this country is the best country, look in the fucking mirror. Look in the fucking mirror on this issue alone. How we treat the elderly. Woof. I think I gotta take a break here. I've been ranting and raving for about 40 minutes here. I'm gonna hit a J, drink on my latte, drink some water, chill, and come back on to keep bitching. I just finished eating a California Club croissant from Nouveau Bakery in Burien. If you get a chance and you're in Burien, hit that motherfucker up. Best bakery in the area. And no, they're not sponsoring me, although I should have asked. Maybe I would have got that sandwich for free. And I am also enjoying a Irish cream latte. And smoking a joint, of course. So now, with all three of these things happening, the sandwich, the joint, and the latte, life's not so bad. And it really is not so bad. I try to focus on the realities of life, which is that it's easy to dismiss your feelings as unimportant or not mattering. Saying to yourself, well, there's so many other awful things happening in the world. Me having to care for my ill and probably dying father, and then getting depressed thinking about your mother and other older family members that, well, within a decade or so, you're going to lose a lot of them because of just age and illnesses and health. And you could get sad about that. But, you know, at least you're not a child in a condo rubble in Miami Beach. You can tell yourself those things. And I have, and do. And it's kind of a constant battle these last few years for me to validate my feelings and emotions and not to say, I shouldn't be feeling these things. You should feel bad for feeling so bad about things because, you know, you could be a child bride in Syria right now. And I don't think that's fair. Sometimes it is. If you're complaining that you got a speeding ticket when you were speeding and you're thinking, woe is me, there's never been a bigger injustice, then you can think, okay, let's calm down here, you know. A motherfucker was just swallowed by a whale crab fishing the other day. Luckily, the whale spit him out. So I think that is worse than getting a speeding ticket when you're going 45 in a school zone. So, in those instances, yes. However, the mass majority of the time, you should let yourself feel things. And I don't think this is news to anyone or groundbreaking news, but to me, it kind of was. I don't know, at an early age, I started to think you shouldn't feel depressed or anxious or nervous because there's so many people that have it so much worse. Do you know that you are living like the 1% in the world? If that analogy makes sense. I'm saying that my way of life puts me in the 1% in the world, is what I was thinking at the time. And you really should keep your mindset not just you in mind and your surroundings in mind. Try to be worldly in your mindset. And I think sometimes that's the right thing to do. However, if something bad happens and you feel a certain way, don't beat yourself up about it. It's okay to feel depressed or angry and then to come back to it either a couple seconds or a couple days later. It doesn't matter. You think of the issue again saying, why was I so angry or sad about that? You can use that as a learning tool. Say, wow, I really shouldn't get so angry when I get a speeding ticket when I'm speeding. Well, obviously I was speeding and I just got caught. So what can I do? I can either try not to get caught again or, just make sure I'm not going that fast in a school zone. And this, $120 fine is a good learning tool. That doesn't work with every situation. If I get a call tomorrow to hear that my old man passed away, I can't think to myself, well, it's bound to happen the way that he's lived his life and his age and his health. Okay. And not feel any kind of shock or horror or anger or any normal emotion to feel. I mean, I understood that's not a good comparison. I should have picked something less than a father dying, but you catch what I'm trying to say. I think our generation tends to do this more so. We are a very empathetic generation. Don't let any other older generation tell you that the millennials are not empathetic. Sometimes we're empathetic to a fault, because then we start to get irrational with ways of how to help a situation through empathy. The term empath is getting thrown around a lot, and deservedly so, I think, because we tend to understand things from a compassionate viewpoint. Because let's face facts, our life has been pretty cushy in America for the last 30, 40 years, and for the most part, we haven't really had to struggle for anything comparable to other parts in the world. But again, don't feel bad about living a cushy life. It's, yes, sometimes built on the bones of oppression and racism and third world exploitism. However, you had nothing to do with that. Now, you can help your contribution to that, like me, and try not to support certain companies, buy certain things, vote a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So I think we also are the first generation to really be the first generation of customer service reps who didn't get a good pay for it. My mother was in customer service for a long time. So was my father. The same shitty American public was around, so there was no difference there. The American consumer has been the biggest cunt since there has ever been consumerism. But what the difference is that older generation was paid a living wage to put up with that shit. And depending on the job, there was a higher rate of unions back then, so that you had people fighting for that. My whole working life, I have worked for one union. And I didn't join it because I was young and didn't believe in unions. And that was my 1-year job at Fred Meyer. Kroger at that time had a union, a shitty union, but a union nonetheless. I have worked for PetSmart, US Bank, and Amazon. And we all know how much Amazon just is embracing the idea of unions, right, Alabama? And so because we aren't given certain financial breaks or, well, let's be truthful, and we're not given honesty by the older generation, we tend to look at things in a wider view. And we also have the good fortune of having historical context on our side through the internet. And so you can look at things geopolitically, whereas most our parents and older generations did not have that luxury. So they tend to have a more individualistic idea of things. Me, me, me. I don't care for the reasons why I can go to literally any supermarket, find the exact same food for the exact same low price. I don't care how that happens. I don't care how they treat farmers, how they treat the workers, where the stuff is coming from, how they treat their people if it's not from this country. This is made in China with child slaves. You don't care. All you care is that you can go to Walmart at 9 p.m. and buy Fruit Loops. You don't give a fuck. And guess what the Fruit Loops is? Buy 2, get 5 free. And now you're fat. I mean, again, I don't want to seem ageist here, but I feel like the boomers literally are the definition of ignorance is bliss. We don't have that luxury. We don't like to look at things, consequences first. Like whether it be policing, the death penalty, abortion, women's rights, LGBTQ rights. It's a lot of the older people tend to come consequences first. Well, you did this, so here's what's going to happen now. You don't really look at how it got to that point. You don't really look at the rehabilitation when it's fitting. You think, well, this person stole a loaf of bread. This person has been arrested multiple times before and is a drug addict. So yeah, they should go to jail for 7 years away from their family and children. Well, don't you want to know why that person stole a loaf of bread? Well, I don't steal, so therefore that person's at fault. It's black and white like that. Well, yeah, but surely this person Their life can't be going good if they're a drug addict and they stole a loaf of bread. Well, maybe they need to work harder. Why are they taking the drugs? Why can't they just stop? Why don't they get a job? I drove past McDonald's today and they have a hiring sign. That's how they look at things. Black and white. That person made one decision. That one decision sums up their entire future of their life. That's not fair. That's not fair. You tell most people under the age of 40 that story, they're looking at, well, why is this person drug addicted? Why is this person stealing? I'm guessing they live in the ghetto. Okay, how's the schooling there? How's the crime? I mean, what kind of stores are there? What kind of opportunities are there? We start asking these questions, whereas the older generation just doesn't give a fuck. Oh, excuses. And even when they acknowledge the issues, they have no idea how to fix it. And when you give them an idea of how to fix it, because our generation has ideas, they just say, oh, that's just crazy thinking. That's not real life. You can't give health care to everybody, even homeless people, even no-gooders who are happy to live off the federal welfare's teat. They assume 98% of people are takers because that's how they were raised. So we tend to be more empathetic. That's my point. Ugh, Jesus. So, it's okay to acknowledge when shit is happening to feel shitty. You don't have to feel bad about feeling shitty. I have to applaud my perceived opinions about my generation's acceptance of the importance of mental health. Whether that be going to a psychologist, or however you want to call it, going to mental health people. That's my point. I think it's because we see the older generations and we feel bad for them, but we also see that their unwillingness to change. They're set in their ways and it's too late to change. That is not everybody, but that's most of them. And I know I felt that way a lot. That my feelings on this are so unimportant because so many people have it so much worse. And it's not fair to yourself. Now, if you start to only think that, then yes, you are kind of an asshole and out of touch with the world around you. But it's okay to feel those feelings, those emotions, those thoughts when shit happens. I don't think that is, a new ideology on life, a new outlook, if you will. But I think it's important sometimes for people to hear that. And I know I've definitely been in a better place. In the past, I would kind of wallow in things. It would be hard for me to kind of dig myself out of these kind of black holes of shittiness. I would never call it depression or anything because I really don't know. That word depression scares me because I see it all around my family, which means I probably have it, but fuck it. Undiagnosed. I feel like I have a pretty good idea now of working through things, whereas older Angelo did not. He would blow things off, would just try to hide it in kind of a safe vault in your mind or in your heart, wherever you want to put that vault. And inevitably it would burst, and then I would have a couple days of, I really don't want to have these thoughts, but I got to work through them. Now I work through things as quickly as I can. I try my best to figure out why am I feeling this way. And I have a routine that I do, and more often than not, it helps. And if it doesn't help, I will reach out to people that I trust, that I can talk to. I will reach out to a psychiatrist, whatnot. So I need to share this, I think, with my audience, whether it be a 1 person or 100, which I doubt, but don't talk to me. If you want to, you can talk to me, I guess. If you want to make entertainment of it, I suppose, in a weird way, you could ask me and I could talk about it on the podcast if you want, but I don't feel like that's the best way. But anyway, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do anything is my point. I'm just telling you what has helped me. So, in closing, the dating life in the last few days has been weird, but it's still fun in a sense. I finally deleted Plenty of Fish off my phone. Mercilessly, my 6-month subscription to it ended. And to be honest, I met some nice people on Plenty of Fish. None of them worked out, but I went on a few dates and had a few fun nights, so I can't completely say it was worthless.
But honestly, Plenty of Fish, by far the worst dating app I've used, because they just don't filter out the garbage. I mean, holy shit. A good analogy would be Plenty of Fish is the vehicle that assholes like Caitlyn Jenner get behind the wheel of and straight murk people. And I'm sure there's been plenty of murks done through Plenty of Fish for meetups and whatnot. But I digress. My point being, it was a clusterfuck of epic proportion. With the amount of obvious fakes, obvious people that are going to come to your house and steal your organs and sell them in the black market, or just the filters and the picture manipulation, and there were just so many scams, and there was like very little policing. But I digress. I'm done with it. I've been recommended OkCupid by a few people, so that is my next app. I have downloaded it. I'm looking at it on my phone, but the thought of setting it up and putting pictures on and writing a bio, I would rather go skinny dipping with piranhas, with cuts in my asshole. A few girls I've been talking to have already kind of lied to me, but I do believe them to be nice people. One said they were in some place in Washington. Turns out they're in the Dominican Republic. So, fucking wild. But, you know, we have built up something. So at least it's someone fun to talk to. I don't know if there's anything there because that's fucking nuts. I'm not doing 90 Day Fiance just yet, okay? And the other one says she was in Seattle. She's actually in Portland. But I don't know why people fucking lie about that shit. Because that's a strike against you right away. And most times it's strike 1, 2, and 3. But these two, I at least am getting fun from them, and I'm liking talking to them. So it's worthwhile to me to continue. A few others I've had to delete or question if they want to keep talking because there's just no responses. Some we do talk, and I think I don't want to keep talking with this fucking nut job, and then we're done. But yeah, that on top of the family stuff has kind of been a little bit too much. And so that is something that I'm working through, is just this depression about dealing with my father, being lonely, spending all this money driving and helping out everybody, whereas I'm not really going out on dates. I'm not really working out like I used to. I'm kind of doing a lot of things that I feel like I should do, whereas the things that I want to do, it's not in a good ratio, so to speak. It's not a good balance. I like to keep things 60-40. 60% of the time, I like to be doing things I have to do or that I should do. And 40% of the time, those are Angelo's time. Those are the things I do solely for myself. So, and now I feel like in the last few weeks, it's been 80-20 and not in the right direction. And now I can't go with some good friends of mine on a vacation that I was really looking forward to. But the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. I was invited to go to a 4th of July party in Issaquah, but I think I talked about this already, so I'm just repeating myself. So maybe I better just wrap it up. The future is bright on the single life. I truly believe that. And my father is getting better, I would like to think. But I think everyone needs to brace themselves for the realities of life. Some people aren't going to be around all the time. And you better have a plan. You better have paperwork ready. You better have that will updated, baby. You better have that beneficiary information. So, anyway. On that happy note about death, I hope everybody has a good 4th of July. I hope everyone survived the heat wave. And I hope everybody is enjoying the TV show Loki. There's no words in the English language to describe how much I'm enjoying Loki. Thank God for that. Thank God. Lastly, before I wrap this up, I wanted to talk about the passing of a great, great, great man. And it's fitting. We've been talking about death so much and how to prepare and what to do afterwards, that it's very fitting that I bring up Senator Mike Gravel. If you don't know who he is, please look him up. He was a very forward-thinking, compassionate, progressive politician from Alaska, I believe. Let me double-check that. Yeah, you didn't think about Alaska, did you? He ran for the presidential nomination, by the way, in 2008 and 2020. Although the 2021 was more of as a joke. Yeah, Alaska. I don't have enough time to go over why I love this man and why his death is so sad. But I want to play a brief snippet of the 2008 presidential debate. Now, if we all remember, Barack Obama won those debates and became the future president, but at that time, he was not the front runner. It was Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. And I'm going to play a snippet from, I don't remember which debate it was, but this is one of his best moments from that presidential campaign. So he was debating on stage with Chris Dodd, Joe Biden, Bill Richardson, Dennis Kucinich, John Edwards, and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So let me go ahead and play this here.
You're right, I made that statement, but that's before I had a chance to stand with them a couple, 3 times. It's like going into the Senate. You know, the first time you get there, you're all excited. My God, how did I ever get here? Then about 6 months later, you say, how the hell did the rest of them get here? And I got to tell you, after standing up with them, some of these people frighten me. They frighten me. When you have mainline candidates that turn around and say that there's nothing off the table with respect to Iran, that's code for using nukes, nuclear devices. I got to tell you, I'm President of the United States. There will be no preemptive wars with nuclear devices. To my mind, it's immoral, and it's been immoral for the last 50 years as part of American foreign policy.
Let's use a little moderator discretion here. Senator Gravel, that's a weighty charge. Who on this stage exactly tonight worries you so much?
Well, I would say the top tier ones. The top tier ones. They made statements. Oh, Joe, I'll include you too. You have a certain arrogance. You want to tell the Iraqis how to run their country. I got to tell you, we should just play get out. Just play get out. It's their country. They're asking us to leave, and we insist on staying there. And why not get out? What harm is it going to do? Oh, you hear the statement, well, my God, the soldiers will have died in vain. The entire deaths of Vietnam died in vain. And they're dying in vain right this very second. You know what's worse than a soldier dying in vain is more soldiers dying in vain. That's what's worse.
Well, there's our man Mike Gravel, and his legacy will continue with the Gravel Institute, or Gravel Institute. I'm sure you've heard of that if you follow politics, and especially progressive politics. So yeah, on the 4th of July, if you were smoking a J and blowing up some shit, think of your boy Angelo. All right? So I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll see